If you hurt yourself doing something that you loved, would you do it again? What if it was something that because you were so passionate about it that you actually ended up becoming one of the best people in the world to ever do it, and that became quite a well-paid gig? Would you do it again? What if the injury was so severe that it nearly killed you and it took you almost a year to be able to walk or talk properly? Would you go back to it? Would you face the fear of getting hurt again? And even if you did go back, could you handle being nowhere near as capable as you once were? Well, that is exactly what Australian surfer Owen Wright did. In 2015, while surfing at Pipeline, Owen Wright sustained a traumatic brain injury that very nearly killed him. He was unable to walk or talk properly, and not only his life, but his surfing career hung in the balance. The story of how Owen managed to regain mobility and not only just get back in the water, but go on to win Australia's first Olympic medal in surfing in 2021, that story is one of the most inspirational comeback stories ever told. We're only just beginning to speak with appropriate gravity about brain injuries in sport. There's a renewed emphasis on safeguarding the well-being of athletes and people playing sport and minimising brain injuries in Australian athletes. The government here in Australia has actually increased funding to enhance the research and prevention of brain injuries and concussions in sport. But I'm not a researcher, you're probably not one either, so what can you and I do about it? Well, we can have grown-up conversations about these injuries and start by showing our kids that safety matters because a brain injury is lifelong and it can potentially change your life or in fact end your life. Now, even if you've never surfed or you've never had to rehab after a significant injury, I guarantee that this chat with Owen Wright is it's like one of the most incredible conversations about what recovery from a traumatic injury actually looks like. Owen even very generously shares about a near-death experience which left me utterly transfixed. Now, not everyone is going to have to learn how to walk again and then go on to win an Olympic medal, all right? That's never going to happen in my life. But it is important to know that it can be done. This is a brilliant listen. I hope you enjoy listening to Owen Wright. Owen, I'm so glad you're here.
Yeah.
I can't remember if we met before. I was really very adjacent to the surf industry in Australia for a while, like 2000 till about 2005.
I'd have just been entering.
Yeah, right. We were really heavily aligned with Billabong though, so we might have only crossed paths at a comp or something like that. But we got to take Georgia to the North Shore a couple of years back, and we were watching the backdoor shootout, I think.
Yeah.
Watching guys take off on triple overhead. It was a Volcom event. Triple overhead. And we were sitting there with Georgia eating an acai bowl, as you do. And that feeling of when the wave breaks and hits the reef and the sand rumbles underneath
the ground.
Underneath. And you're 50 metres from the thing.
Yeah.
That was fresh in my mind when I was reading about what happened to you. And I was like, fucking hell, man. It was so...
That rumble.
Mate. That you, A, are alive, B, are who you are now and can carry what happened to you with you as you talk about it is amazing, mate.
Yeah.
It's so amazing. Because you could have not talked about it.
Easily, yeah.
What was it that made you want to talk about it?
I think... Actually didn't want to talk about it for ages, but I just couldn't. It just came up everywhere. And I actually had like some different like site coaches and that helped me with it because it was just like the way I look at it is like, you know, Mick with his shark accident and all that. It's like everyone thinks about Mick Fanning and shark and whatnot. And it's like for me it was just like I came back to surfing and I did well again after like being so bad. So it was like everyone was talking about, oh, how bad was that? and whilst I was trying to be good. So I don't think I ever get used to talking about it, but it's the reason behind like that I started to speak up, or the reason behind the book, was that my inbox in my Instagram and the rest of it was just flooded with people's comments of like people that have been through things way worse than me, or people that like just wanted to share in the experience that I like got to have, which was a beautiful one, like to be able to like get to the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. Like I felt like I really got to touch it.
Not the other light that you nearly touched, which fucking blew my mind when you wrote about that.
I know, right? So it's like that light, and then but actually like getting to feel like I get to achieve and those things again, and just how much that meant to people sitting at home on the couch or either being in similar places to that.
And people who were, I can only speak from my own experiences when I started talking about what was going on with me. It was not only people that had been through it, but it was brothers, sisters, husbands, wives, mothers and fathers who had family members that had been going through something like that. That went, that's the thing that they talked about, but they weren't able to, speak about it in that particular, right. And it helps them understand the person they love more. And that's a great gift. That's a great gift as well. And the gift you've given by sharing your story of the reality is that it's not that no recovery is a straight line. That Hans Rosling wrote a book called Factfulness, which I just fucking love. And he always says, beware of straight lines on graphs. They're all lies.
That I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it, because my neurologist drew my recovery. And he literally started at one end of the page and just went absolutely crazy on this piece of paper. And then right at the very end, he just went, doot. He said, that's going to be your recovery. And I was just like, oh my God. Like, and I'd resonated with it then, but then like it could not have prepared me for the craziness that was to come, all around us life-wise. It's, it really is like, the reason behind the book is like, take a look behind the scenes of the wildness, and then, a lot of people can just see all these great results. But it was just mayhem behind there.
Because, we experience time in a Western culture. We experience time in a linear way. This happened, and then that happened after that. And then because of those two things, this happened. Ta-da, I go to bed. But particularly with recovery from an injury or after a relationship, any kind of recovery from somewhere where you wanted to be to now you're not where you were there and you want to get back, there's days when, as you described so wonderfully, when you think, I've lost every step that I had gained. I am worse than I was when I started. Fuck this, I'm giving up. But what you've done in your story by talking about it is just really illustrating that. And, to the people around you who kept reminding you of this, that's a part of it. That's all a part of it. What was it like when you were dealing with those things where you felt like you'd taken 20 steps backwards?
Oh, I can remember this one. I was like, even 11 months after, and I could barely move. I was like, what is going on? Like, why can't I move? Like, and I knew that the World Tour event was like 3 months away. And I was like, I don't even know if this is not right. Like, it just felt like the world was crumbling around me. And I was like, okay, let me just try and walk to the end of the road again. And then my heart rate would be at 100 and whatever, like 150 or something, like just craziness. And I was just like, all right, let's just keep track of it. And I just kept having to put that like one day at a time, because those setbacks were just so big. But it was like all and overwhelming, but I had such good people around me that I was able to kind of go into those places and be safe enough to just put one foot in front of the other, and not have to think about the bigger picture when I was just struggling.
One of the things that really I really resonated with a lot is it takes a particular kind of mindset to be able to succeed in the career that you chose. Like the skill set around surfing, paddle position, patience, all the P's, performance, preparation, such and such. Yet the person who's the one that's going to get up earlier, the person that's going to go when it's 5 degrees colder, the person that's going to drive just a little further around the corner to see the next point, the person that's going to put this on hold so they can go on that trip to get this photo, to get da-da-da-da. Like that stuff you can't teach. That stuff is a drive from within, and only the people that make those upper echelons of the professional grade have that. They all have it to a varying degree. But what I got out of your book when I read it was like, oh, this thing that drove you relentlessly to get the success that you had started to fuck with you when you got told, dude, seriously don't move. In fact, don't get on a plane. Like you cannot get on a plane. You're going to die and you can't do it. And this thing inside you that had been driving you for so long
went turbo.
That would have been hard. What was it like to grapple with that?
I think I'm still grappling with it. You know, I go that into early in the book is like my old man was so driven, and like that point about get up earlier, do that, everything that's slightly more uncomfortable, do it more uncomfortable than the next bloke, you know, and it was like 4:30 a.m. training sessions or 4 o'clock, or is it cold? Okay, we're training without a shirt on today and you've got to warm up, like, and it's, you know, freezing cold. So those challenges was from young, right? From real young. And then the accident happened and it was like, I'd had this like experience that like was completely freaky. Like I was just like, I'm so scared that I just need to like get out of this place. Although being dangerous, because like I was so driven to just keep moving, I do think it's the one thing that got me out of that place. Like it was a really, I think if I just like stopped, I don't know, it's hard to look back, but I feel there's this part of me, if I'd just sat down on the couch and just like not got up, I'd still be on that couch. Yeah. Like I wouldn't have regained the life that I got to live after that. And all the joys that I got to feel, I would have just stopped. There's no way. So that it's almost like a curse, but also this blessing that got me out of there.
Mate, I couldn't relate more. Like I've got obsessive compulsive disorder. I've got ADHD. Like just being able to refocus the thing that very nearly killed me dead, being able to refocus that thing on getting better meant that I was willing to, particularly when it came to things like exposure therapy and stuff like that, I was willing to do this stuff that was just so extraordinarily uncomfortable and so painful and so terrifying, but I didn't know any other way to be. I was like, okay, so I'm going to use this thing that my brain does anyway. I'm going to put it in the direction of getting better. Yeah. I guess I was talking about like when you were being told by your family, by the best brain doctors that were in Hawaii, you really can't go anywhere. You're going to, you know, those first couple of days, first couple of weeks, when you ended up back at the Rip Curl house and you've got people carrying you to the shower and they're like, you should really be in a rehab facility, but it's America. So they're like, but if you don't want to go, you don't have to. Freedom. See you, bye. You know?
Freedom. Okay. How good. Yeah, I do look back at that stage and I go, who gave me that freedom? Like, obviously me. Like it was just get me out of here. But you can't even move, dude. Like what do you, but that was their headspace, man. Yeah. It was just like, you couldn't tell me anything different. Everybody was telling me like that you're in a really bad way. I ended up back in hospital because I was in a really bad way, like terrible. Like they were putting me outside in a chair and I'd just start like convulsing and just going out again. And that was happening. And then obviously it happened to a point which was so bad that I ended up back in hospital.
Yeah, you talk about that moment in the book, and I got in trouble last night. I was reading your book and Georgia and Audrey were watching a show and I'm in the corner reading a book and I was like, fuck, shush, sorry. Chair. Like I just kept explaining. You talk about this moment where you kind of faded away from not reality as such, but you faded away from life and the people around you. Your now wife had been with someone when they had passed away and recognized, oh, I've seen this before. Yeah. Like, yeah. Unbelievable. What is that, you know, and you speak about it so clearly. Like, what do you think about it? Like, what happened? What do you see? What was it like?
I mean, I've only ever had the conversation with a few people, right? But it's like I lived it yesterday. Like it's right there, you know? And it was the most vivid, colourful, like freeing. It's like the world doesn't exist too far beyond this, but it's just like right there. And I just went to the other side.
Wow.
You know, and I was in such a bad way physically that like some part of me had like tapped out.
Yeah, wow.
And yeah, off I was flying through the cosmos, man. And it was just wild.
Yeah.
I had a few people with me, and you don't actually, we were talking, but you don't actually speak. It's all like just understood, you know?
Wow.
Yeah. But I had a choice to come back. Yeah.
Oh, you felt there was a choice point?
100%. I went a long way, and then there was this moment where it wasn't words, but it was like, what do you want to do? And I just kind of looked back in a sense, and it was like, the people that are with you here were still with me there, like their feeling and their presence and whatnot. And I just went, I'm going back, and just yeah. And then that was my experience, what I call the other side. Yeah. And then it's such a weird thing to talk about, but it's just given me a whole different perspective on like that, I guess, that side of things.
Well, yeah. You know, there's an explanation for it. I don't know what it is, but I have no doubt that it happens.
Yeah.
You write about this, you know, you write about near-death experiences, and my mum had one. She's passed away now, but my mum had one. I remember as we were getting close, she died of like really, you know, pretty decent cancer. And she was a doctor. She knew it was coming, you know. Right. So she's like, she diagnosed herself. Doctors are the worst patients, dude. They're the worst.
Yeah.
So we were talking about it, and she goes, oh, look, I've been there before. I'm not afraid of it. It's okay. When she was really little after the war, when she was in a refugee camp.
Yeah, right.
And she goes, she had the same thing, very similar to what you described. Yeah. She goes, it's okay. You know, it's comfortable. It's nice. I'll be okay. And that was amazing to hear.
Gives me chills hearing about that. But yeah, I was nervous to look into it afterwards too. Like I didn't really want to like explore that side, because it was like, well, that was so damn real. Like, and I was so focused on like trying to stay here.
Yeah, yeah.
So it took me a little while to kind of just like really get that out and,
fair enough,
and start looking into it a bit. And then I was like, oh, that's a lot of people have that same experience.
It's a lot to process.
Yeah. And I was already processing a lot.
Yeah. How does it make you think about, how does that change the way you go about things, the way you go about, you know, the way you raise your kids, the way you're in a relationship, the way you're with people when you're with people?
Well, I guess when I was there, I had a message, and the message was, you're going to be all right. And I could tell you, I pretty much cursed those words because I was not all right for so long afterwards. But like, if look at my life, it went okay. Like I'd made it out of there, and it wasn't like it was wrong. But that message changed the way I went about things. Yeah. Because I thought I was going to be great, but it wasn't great, and I was a bit disgruntled. Like, oh man, like this is not great. Like, you're not okay. Like this is a lot harder than I thought, but coming back was a lot harder than I thought. So that kind of changed that sense. But like once I kind of made it through that, I do feel a bit of I don't know. It's like a bit of a confidence type feeling, you know, for the future. Like I don't feel like that side, like that other side. I actually just don't feel like the other side's too far, like, you know, from us here now. Like I don't. It's not like, oh no, one day that's going to happen. It's like, oh, it's right there, you know.
Yeah. The idea. I mean, you know, to get too deep, but that's what we do here sometimes. You know, the denial of death, or the solution for the death problem is, you know, it's a lot of what our culture's built on. You know, you don't like feeling, oh, buy this new car. You know, you don't like feeling, oh, yeah, get these new clothes. It'll make you feel, you know, the whole, how far away can we keep death? How far away can we keep? How much money will we spend getting away from it? But there's no cheat code. Every single one of us is going to die.
Yeah.
Every one of us. Nobody gets out of this.
Yeah.
And that also makes it beautiful, and being an acceptance of it. I used to be terrified of it.
Yep.
Being an acceptance of it changes the way I go about a lot of things.
Yeah. For me, the best way I can explain it is that it's just not that far away. Yeah. Like it's right there. Like, and in one way, it's kind of like the people that I've lost and things like that. And I feel like they're right there as well. Like, I don't feel like that's too far. So it's like not as much separation between that. Like, oh no, like I want to prolong my life as long as I can, or this or that. It's all like closer together.
Wow.
Yeah.
That Keita was with you, that you had someone to advocate for you for a lot of those few weeks and months.
Mm-hmm.
What role did that play in you having the outcomes that you did?
Things happened in a way for me that was, I can't explain it. Like, I was so lucky, you know. I had Keita there. I had my sister Tyler. My whole family flew across. But like Keita being right there, like washed, cleaned, like just took on this role of like support and carer and just like, yeah, just being there for someone at like for everything at such a young age. And we were both of us,
young, man.
both of us so young.
Don't make it out like you were like,
yeah.
You didn't pass half your age plus 7. You well and truly did. Like
yeah, both of us so young.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like, just so lucky for me because recovering, I don't know how that would have looked if I didn't have all that support. You know, just from like getting out of hospital, like I couldn't get myself out of hospital. You know, like to get out of there, I had to get home to do whatever I needed to do. I needed the help.
Yeah. And to be able to be there for her then, like when, you know, she was there for you when you're at your most vulnerable. And I was thinking about, as you were writing about, you know, the birth of your kids.
Yeah.
What was it like for you to be there for her in those moments?
I mean, yeah, just like birth of your kids is incredible. Like, and being there for her, well, you know, trying to return this favor to her that like I feel still forever in her debt, you know, for what she did for us. And being there for her with one kid, with 2 kids, you know, even now with her career back up and going and things like that, it's like I just have this like burning passion to like try and do everything I can to like play support because the support that I got was unbelievable.
But you know, that's what a wonderful thing. It's not like there's a bank balance somewhere. It's not like there's a ledger.
It's just an internal thing that I'm just like, that I've got to do that.
But doesn't it feel great to do it though?
Oh, it feels great. I love it.
Yeah.
It's like one of my passions. Like, like it's like, it's not, oh, she's this because of that, but it's like an internal, like, it's a passion that yeah.
When you were recovering, meditation played a role in getting you, you know, I guess, getting you through some of the trickiest bits. Can you talk a bit about how that works?
Yeah. So I'd actually been meditating for a while. I got taught by Matt Griggs, who's been on, here. And I loved the practice that he did, which was like short, but then journaling afterwards.
Yeah.
And that process, like I was doing that twice a day, every day prior to the accident. And then so the accident happened and there was like people like, oh, meditation's good. And so I just was doing that a lot of the times and journaling and a little nervous to go back and read some of those notes, but I have read them. But yeah, they kind of go around in circles, to be honest. But that it played a real big role because I got to keep a track of like what my morning was, my afternoon, trying to connect with like what was going on internally, and like calming down my brain, which would have been going pretty insane at the time. Was it working? Was it great? I don't know. But one thing's for sure, it was like something that I did morning and night, just had to do.
What was it like having that skill set of being able to observe the thoughts rather than be the thoughts? And some of those thoughts would have been pretty dark considering the kind of trajectory that we were describing earlier.
Yeah. A lot of them were just so intense internally. So like like, you know, calming your brain down and then like kind of dropping into your heart. And like in here was just this like fireball of like, and you'd kind of be like kind of shaking it sometimes.
Yeah.
But I guess that was just all the trauma and what was going on upstairs and the rest of it. I think that just it helped me process what I was dealing with in that moment. Lots of frustration because I couldn't do things, and lots of fears and whatnot. And I think the journaling and all that just kind of helped me get through that time. I still do it now. Well, yeah, I love it. It did help me observe, but there was just some things I couldn't help.
Yeah.
Like totally engulfing, right? Of
course.
Yeah, like meltdowns and the rest of it. And that all happened all the time.
Yeah.
So, but that little moment at the start of the day and at the end of the day were like part of my routine that my neurologist helped me kind of stick to, and family and friends like, oh, you know, have you done your meditation yet? Or like this and that. So it was kind of those things to check in, and it was like my own check-in, you know, just like a bit of time before things get a bit wild.
Yeah, I'm a routine guy. Very much when it comes to self-care stuff. I have 2 times of day. I have now and not now. That's it. So if I make things habitual, then I know that kind of happen. And so I try to systemize that kind of stuff. Yeah. Can you talk a bit about how having a regular routine helped when you had so many unknowns and so many variables? What was the role of having a routine in your recovery?
Well, I guess having what happened to my brain, and a lot of people probably have been through something similar or have something similar to this, is that experience gave me a really great appreciation for routine. Like, it's mundane as people say it is, and it's not freeing, and, you know, do things that drop out. Our brains really do hate freedom as much as what we, you know, like it sounds bad to say, but it's anxiety, it's unknown, it's like all these things that are like,
that's it. They don't, the uncertainty
and yeah, they're good at times, but like, your brain really does function with a lot of ease when you can get up in the morning and your brain knows that I am going to do this for 5 minutes, I'm going to journal for this, and then I'm going to go for a walk, and then I'm come back and I'm going to eat this food, and like, and it's just the same thing, and it really can calm your brain down, and because it's like in a pattern. So routine played a big part in my recovery, and that was one thing that the neurologist passed on to me, was like, get a good routine, set it as soon as you get up, and then watch the rest of the day go to shit, because that's what was happening. But every day that I set that routine, and then I set it again the next day, it's all right, I'm going to set it again the next day. It could be crying and everything. Where am I? What's going on? By the afternoon, the next morning, set the same routine, and the same routine for days and days on end. And eventually, I just stayed in a better headspace for a bit longer, day by day.
And those little bits start to join together.
It's like the little bits that you do for that hour, that first set, then all of a sudden you might be good for an hour after that, and then it might be 2 hours, and then all of a sudden you might have had 2 days in a row that you haven't had a meltdown. And then all of a sudden, like, maybe for me, it was like a year later, oh, I just had a good week.
Wow, yeah.
You know, like that was all right.
Wow.
So, but yeah, I had it so short, you know, like a couple hours good, and then set that routine, and then you got a couple good hours, and then you kind of lost. But just growing that each day, like how long can you stay, like, just with it a little bit better. And that routine helped that. Having
that focus that we were talking about earlier, that same bit of you, Owen, that got pulled out of the surf in Spain with a busted eardrum, blood everywhere, completely fucked shoulder, showing up the next day going, no, what do you mean? I'm good to go. I'm good to go. Fuck it, my herniated disc, don't worry about it. It's fine, don't worry, I'm fine.
Yeah, like, lift your head up. I can't lift it up. Just, can we go now?
I'm over heat. I've got to go.
Yeah.
Like, that same drive So Wolf and I were watching Cloudbreak this morning, watching your incredible heat at Cloudbreak.
Yeah.
It's waves as big as my, like gigantic waves, huge reef, whatever.
Yeah.
Like terrifying. I've sat in the channel at Chopu. Like it's a death trap, a terrifying wave. The challenge of I'm going to get from now to 10:35 this morning and everything's going to be all right.
Yeah.
What was that challenge like versus the kind of thing you'd kind of built up to your whole life from the age of 5 to, yeah, sure, I'll paddle into this, 20-foot wall of death that's breaking over a meter of razor sharp reef? Fine. Like, what was that challenge like?
Dude, it was so tough. Like I'm saying here, I'm talking like as if I got to achieve that every day. But it was like some days, man, there's a truck on top of me. I'd been like up all night, no sleep, nothing. And it's just like just not any part of brain thought that could get to routine. But it was just getting into it. And then things got better once just if you made a start. Wow. It was like this thing, like all the stuff could be so wrong. And just as I'd get into it, it would be like, like just a tiny little bit of light come in, instead of like all the rest of the darkness that you're feeling, or the frustration and the lost feeling. It would just be this little bit of light. I'm like, oh, there it is. It's something I know. And it would just slowly clog over and like click over. And I'd be like, and I'd just be kind of in a nice little track.
So even though there was a part of you that was like, I don't want to try it, I don't want to do it today, part of you knew, just start.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what that was, but some part of me would drag myself to it, right? Like just do it. Like I was horrible, like as bad as it gets, right? But I think I just had so much in my life leading up to that, that like just making a start, like the amount of times I got out of bed as a teenager and as a young kid to up at 4 o'clock in the morning or 4:30 is freezing cold and, running the streets and doing these things, low squats with your arms up in the air for 20 minutes. Like those things you never want to do. Like every day doing that, I would do that every day for training with my dad, like for mental training. And it was like, that's what like getting into this routine in that head injury was like. Just to meditate or just to start was like pushing over that edge. And I think that's something that I just innately had already experienced, just push over. Yeah. And pushing over, I think that's what made all the difference in that recovery. It's because like just drag yourself there, kicking and screaming, really. That's also what the neurologist said. So when he was breaking this recovery down to me, I was like, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Oh yeah. I just to get.
It's not going to get better until it kind of feels uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where the growth happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it's not, he explained it to me like, okay, if you want to go to the gym and you want to grow your muscle, you have to tear that muscle before it gets any bigger. And I was like, oh my God, I've got such a long road. So that just kind of, it's like my pre-life and had like set me up to really grasp what I needed.
It's extraordinary. Yeah, you're right. I don't know if someone else had this kind of level of injury, their ability to recover, not having ever known what it is to, I know there's discomfort, this is pushing myself to the point where it's so uncomfortable, but I know this is where the growth happens. If you'd never done that before, you'd never get off the couch. Yeah.
I mean, I look back at my childhood in like such a beautiful way, like so thankful for it because it
reads pretty full on, bro. It reads pretty intense.
Right. And it's so funny, everyone's opinion of it, right? Because it's, there were moments that I was doing these squats where I'd be crying and things like that. But like, I look back and like that got me everything I got today. That got me out of the darkest place or the, most injured place I could ever, having that experience. But like writing about it, when I was writing about it, I was like, wow, like it is a little bit messed up. But it also gave me so much. It gave me so much later. Like life, will throw you things that you're not ready for, or like tests that you might be ready for. And that's kind of the way I look at it, is that upbringing really did like give me a shot at making out of that.
Yeah.
And but also the neurologist echoed this, man. He literally said like, hey, like if you sit down, it's not happening.
Yeah.
Like you got to regain your life. And it was like, there's no one else can do it.
Yeah.
So it was like, all right, my dad's taught me this before. All right, neurologist is telling me this.
To make it really, like you only really get one chance in life to make a surf movie pun like this. It's all about momentum.
There you go. Momentum, yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
Before the accident, before you took 18 Olympic swimming pools worth of water on your head, was that the number, 18?
Yeah, I don't know.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
You wrote the number, I forget.
Yeah.
But it's a colossal amount of, it's a huge amount of water. People have this idea, oh, water, it's this stuff in the glass.
Yeah.
It's fine. Water is a very runny solid. And depending on how fast you hit it or it hits you, just look at someone getting hit by a riot hose. Yeah. That's the same stuff that's in this glass.
That's it.
You know?
Yeah.
And you took 18 Olympic swimming pools worth of water right on the head.
Well, you felt it sitting on the beach pipe.
Mate.
It shakes the ground.
It shakes the ground 50 metres away. The sand shakes.
Yeah. I stay in a house just past that sand.
Yeah.
The house shakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you were in that level of force compression. What did you know about head injuries before that? I mean, we all, league, AFL, boxing. I used to get my hair cut by an ex-boxer and he talked slow.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah.
He talked slow.
Yeah.
His hands still move fast, but he talks slow.
Yeah.
It's a part of this sport that we love.
Yeah.
And we define ourselves by, What did you know about head injuries before this happened to you?
Honestly, nothing.
Wow.
Yeah. The head injury, the guy was like, oh, have you experienced a concussion before? Nah, no, never. Any of times where you lose consciousness? Oh, yeah. Actually, I was knocked out there. I guess that was a concussion. And I was like, oh, that time I was knocked out unconscious at Tahiti. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, I had a car accident. Oh, yeah, I've knocked out at that comp. Oh, yeah, I was knocked out here. And I just was like, oh, my God. And it just started this light bulbs just going off everywhere. And I was like, how many of these have I had? And then I was going back through my thing. I was like, I went through a pretty bad time after that one. I didn't know what was wrong with me. Going through my whole career, not ever being diagnosed with a concussion or told I'd have.
That was even mentioned.
It was not even mentioned, not even a thing.
Were you set in the HIA? Did you get sent off to the sidelines?
Well, no, it was not a thing, man. It's like, you go for a free surf, you just got a really bad wipeout, you can't see, you're super dizzy. That was so common that you'd just kind of be like, oh man, I'm vomiting out here. I just got so wiped out, man. I'm just like, I just got to wait till this passes. Oh yeah, I'll come good, sweet. Let's catch another one. That was just there's no thought of hey man, you've just had a concussion. That's one thing this head injury, I think, has changed for my sport and for especially in Australia is the kids now, if they go down and they see stars, they treat it like an ankle sprain. Oh, wait, I've got to do, a couple of weeks of rehab on that.
You're right.
Instead of for us, being completely unconscious and not even knowing oh, I just wiped out, but how did I get back to here? I don't know how I'm here. What am I doing here? And then I'm on a jet ski. How did I get here?
Wow.
Oh. All right, let's go for the next one. Different time is now. It's kids are going to be a lot healthier.
Yeah. The cumulative effect of head injuries and head trauma, we're only just starting to kind of really understand, because some of these things you can't really examine until in a post-mortem analysis. But we're starting to see them more and more, you know, from the States, the NFL players, and a bit here. What about the emotional effects that people may not understand that come as a result of head trauma and you know, traumatic brain injury?
Lots of emotion.
Yeah.
In every direction. Yeah, like you've got depression, anxiety, panic attacks. You can have, there's a huge range, man. That flat feeling. I don't know. Depression's just it's just one word of so many different, like so many different emotions to do with like just down, you know, like there's down and then there's like, you know, so many other places.
Many levels. Yeah. There's levels.
Yeah. So in my, that's why I'm like, oh, well, the depression, anxiety, but that is just so, that scale, man, flipping back and forth. I think that being told that, hey, you've got a concussion and like, hey, that's part of, you're going to flip back and forth for a while. Like you can almost like start to like look at yourself differently. Like, oh, like that's not real, that emotion. Or like it's real, but it's like, you don't need to like.
It's hard to get in there though. It's hard to not react, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, okay, yeah, you're going to be like chasing lures and you're going to like, you're going to be really unsettled, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I don't know, that's definitely something that I think that these head injuries, the emotional side of it is massive, but it's, I don't know, physically it's big too, you know?
Yeah. Like, hearing you describe, reading about you describe, you're just this peak athlete in that, you know, you spend your entire life conditioning and becoming the most like astounding reaction, balance, reading a wave, like everything, your ability to coordinate your body, your balance wise. You're not a small person. Your center of gravity is quite high. You've got to be really good at this. Like you look at guys like Oki, they're shorter than me. Slater's shorter than me. Like you've got to be far more careful on the board. And when you're describing being unable to crawl, you talk about someone filmed you doing a drill with some cones.
Yeah.
What did that footage look like? They didn't show you the footage at the time. What did the footage look like in the end?
Oh man, I still find that hard to watch. So does my wife. It's just like, that was training before I have this other footage as far back again, and it was just crawling, and I'll never put it out, but it's because it's really gnarly. Like I just forget how to crawl, and then I forget my own name and who I am, where I am, and I just absolutely melt down. Like just the fear, the level of fear, because I've watched it and I felt it, the level of fear in my face when like that level of complexity just scrambled everything that was going on. It was insane. But then later on, when I was training back to get to the World Tour event, my coach was putting me through these drills, like and Chris Heinington actually was putting me through these drills, and
ex-leaguey knows about a head hit.
Yeah, knows about a head hit, and he was looking at the coach and just going, "Look, this guy's supposed to."
What was it? Were you doing a shuttle run or something like that?
There was 4 cones, and it was like, "Hey, red cone, touch the red cone. Yellow cone, touch the red cone," and I was just like not touching the cone.
But in your head, you're like nailing this.
I thought I was like freaking like, yes. And they were all like, high five, good work, man. And the footage, I didn't touch a single cone. I didn't even get close to a cone. I was moving so slow, and like I couldn't like get down to get the cone and back up and all the rest of it. You could see the mental tension inside of me. And yet I was just like high-fiving, like I just nailed it. And like that was the best I'd done. And the guys are looking at each other. They still laugh over it now. Like he still sends me it every now and then, just like, man, this was you before you started Snapper Rocks.
Which you won.
Which I won, yeah.
But I think it's a real credit to these guys who knew that if they had gone, dude, you haven't touched a thing, like understanding that just you being in the process of training, you being in the process of being in action was the reason. Yes.
Glenn Micro Hall, man, forever grateful for that guy, man. He understood that to such a deep level that it's about me regaining my life, not about me touching that cone. It's about me trying. And he high-fived me at every moment, never said a single thing. Like, reality, a coach probably could have said, hey, man, you didn't touch a single cone. And it probably would have melted me down or whatever. But he just understood that it's like, it's movement, it's process, it's regaining function, it's regaining life. And that input was so important, you know, throughout that whole journey. Like, there was other moments whilst I was back on tour and it was just like, mate, you might not have any idea what's going on around, but you can sure as hell surf. Like, well, and I found a little place of peace in that as well.
You got 2 kids now. You've watched 2 kids. Well, the youngest is 2 now?
2.5.
2.5, right.
Yeah.
So you've now watched 2 kids take probably, depending on come or go, anywhere between 12 and 18 months to learn how to walk. And yet here you are with your brain completely scrambled, getting upset at yourself because you can't figure it out straight away. Like, if you're starting from 0, like, that's the metric. It takes 18 months.
Yeah, yeah.
What was it like watching your kids learn how to walk?
Well, it was interesting because out of that experience for me, I learnt these exercises that were called DNS and dynamic neuromuscular stabilization, and it's all the brain patterns that we're born with as a young child.
Oh yeah, I've seen the poster on the wall of my guy.
Yeah, have you seen that poster?
Yeah, I have. It's amazing.
It's around everywhere now.
It's amazing.
So I was doing those same exercises, like already back surfing and whatever. Like, my son was born at this stage, but I was doing those same exercises, those same patterns of rolling over, getting up, and I was finding it giving my brain ease doing the bigger movements, like just clicking back into, because that's the theory of it, right? Is to get back that shoulder movement and hip movement to its most purest form, like without load and whatnot. And that was actually giving my brain a bit of a, you know, maybe a 5%, I don't know what it was, but it was really helping. I was doing that with my son, which is like, so cool. Which was so rad. Like, and we got all this footage of my wife. What do I say? Oh, that you're doing your like 6-month pose and you know, all those things.
That's so cool.
Yeah, yeah.
That's so fascinating, isn't it?
It was a rad time, and it was a beautiful time because I wasn't able to free surf or anything like that. So I was spending so much time with him and just kind of, you know, laying around and just trying to recover from heats. And,
Well, the amount of effort that it would take to compete and then to come back around again would have been astounding, considering what else you were trying to deal with at the time and the focus you needed to kind of put into not only maintaining your health but your relationship, you know, because I'm sure it wears thin after. Look, you can wipe your own bum today, Owen. Like, at some point it's going to wear thin. Oh yeah, for sure. Like, there's all those moments amongst it all, but for Keita and I, it's just like we look at that and go, how the hell did we make it through that? Like, which is like you say, amazing. We're really happy to have made it through. Well, what you've learned and who you both have become because of this is amazing. What the guy that I was watching this morning on the video with Wolf, you know, pulling into this gigantic, like as big as a subway tube barrel in Fiji. I know it's crazy, frightening. To be that guy and then rolling around on the floor with a toddler going, we're going to figure this out together. Like, what did you learn about humility through this? I had to get good with just not being able to. It was really hard. As a competitor, it felt like this weakness, but it drove me to different strengths, right? Like, it drove me to tactics. It drove me to, I guess I did get told something. It was like, let's not look at what you can't do. Let's look at what you can do. And because I was needing to do and get into a process, I started to do the things I could do. I could roll around with my son on the floor. I could practice these small exercises. I couldn't surf the way I wanted to surf. I couldn't surf as much as I wanted to surf. I couldn't practice. I couldn't lift weights. I couldn't be that robust person that was charging into those big waves. As much as I tried, it would just always backfire. The humility was definitely embarrassing at times because it was just like, I'm supposed to be this pro surfer and I just wait around waiting to put my rash shirt on, like, and that's all I could do.
but I just have to keep reminding myself that what I could do was enough. Like what you can do is enough. And like I would watch all these guys practice, man, and it's still something that sits inside of me. I just watch them practice and practice and practice, and I just have to sit there and go, "It's all right. I got your number. It's all right. What I do is good enough. It's all right. What I do is good enough." And I was doing nothing, but I had to have this level of like, "That's all right. That's all right. You just landed a backflip. Yeah, sweet. That's all right. I'll get 30 minutes with you."
Wow.
You know, so like that's pretty hard to watch. Like, I don't know if you watch all your mates just achieving and making gains and moving ahead, and you're just not able to. It gave me like a level of I wasn't comfortable, but I had to like mentally reassure myself that I was enough.
So it sounds like there's a mantra. Were mantras and things to come back to, were they helpful for you?
Yeah, I guess things to come back to, but also like I was reminded at every moment, like, oh, we're all going surfing. I'm not going surfing. Yeah. So those mantras, it's almost like it's not like I was like purposely thinking them. I just had to live them. Yeah. And so I just had this experience.
And then come contest time, what happened?
Well, yeah, I was able to show up in ways that like even surprised myself, like because I just lived this like, in a way that I was so okay that I was just making good decisions, I was picking good waves, and I was executing. So I was like, wasn't falling, you know, like that was a good half of my career that I had to compete in a whole different way as my entire first half of my career. Yeah. Like it was like I had to learn a whole different skill.
There's a lot of simplification around what you were up to, because it was prior to the accident, it was very technical, very, you know, stuff that takes
detail,
1,000 goes to get right, and then now you have to figure out how to not get it wrong.
Yeah, chuck your head, do this, that. Yeah.
What was the simplification like? What was it like now dealing with a less complex, you know, approach?
That was a battle for me, and a battle that I got to a point where I thought that I'm done with this simplification. I can't, like, I need to be the best again. I need to try these big airs. I want to like make gains like I used to make. And I lost that battle again. So I was back to the simplification. But I ended up with a bronze medal. But it literally, like, I left off from Glenn Micro Hall, right, and that he really understood my brain, how it worked, how I could get the best out of myself with like those mantras of like simple's okay. Like our first one was like mantra in a heat was like stay on your board. That's how simple it was.
If you're like in the middle of a surfing competition where the eyes of the world are on you because it's the big comeback show, right? Yeah. And it's like, well, you know, that move, the judges scored really high in the waves beforehand, so I'm going to have to see if I can figure out if I can pull one off because we'll look for one of those similar waves. It doesn't get simpler in a professional surfing contest than stay on your board. Yeah. I can stay on my board. Yeah. I'm 50 and I'm shit. But, you know, that's amazing.
The best coach and one of the best coaches in the world was advising one of the best surfers, just stay on your board. That was all I could take in. And that was...
Talk about focus on what you can do.
Yeah, stay on your board. I could do that. That was the goal.
And everything else was gravy.
And everything else kind of flowed along. And years down the track, I thought, like, yeah, I've improved so much. I've been surfing so much longer now. Like, I want to move away from this simple game. But, like, somewhere in there, like, I just still can't take on as many things as I used to take on. And I wanted to take on these things. So I moved on from the coach and I went out, and it was like, it did backfire. Right. Like I tried all this stuff and I tried to do it all like I used to do it, and it didn't work. And it was really humbling again. But it was so great because it really made me so appreciative of Glenn and how much he understood me and how much effort and time he put into actually taking the time to understand what a simple mindset can do. And not just doing it for me, but then I think for him, like also realizing that, hey, that can kind of work for people.
It's extraordinarily powerful to simplify. It's very hard to do, to simplify what it is that you do. Mm-hmm. It's like writing a perfect pop song. if everyone could do it, everyone would do it. People write off pop music. It's really hard to write a number one that will make a 50-year-old guy hum it and a 16-year-old girl scream for it and a 5-year-old kid ask to hear it again, again, again. It's really hard.
Yeah.
It sounds simple, 3 chords. What could be wrong? No, it's very, very hard.
Yeah.
It's way easier to be complicated.
Yeah.
What would you say to people about who are reluctant to simplify things? What's the value in it?
It's so rewarding. You're not chasing this endless need and unfulfilled like feeling. You're actually fulfilled a little slower, more content, more composed, and things just kind of come out a little bit easier. But that for an athlete or anyone who's like in that space of like, I'm going to be the best, teaching that is like so hard. And Glenn somehow like got that onto me, not through my situation, but understood it at a deep level too, you know. And then now he you know, teaching that as well to athletes in that space. It's quite a headspace to be in, but that's definitely where, like, you know, you hear people talk about that flow state, and that's definitely like
all the metaphors, the metaphors that ever exist in surfing.
Right.
Talk about being in the moment. Talk about just play, surf the wave in front of you. You know, like talk about just being ready and being, you know, in the space. What have you learned about the value of being resilient and actively staying resilient because of all that happened to you?
I think there's a need for humans to test themselves. Resilience I think is experienced. Like and by getting that resilience, you got to be a little bit uncomfortable, right? And you really can't get uncomfortable if you don't just push yourself that little extra, or, you know what, like I am going to try this thing that does scare me, but I'm going to give it a go. And if it doesn't turn out, you've learnt, you know, you've gained. I think that resilience and the appreciation for like the things that I have experienced it's great. I think some parts I didn't need to experience in that part because they were really challenging, but nonetheless, like, there's not a hell of a lot here that I'm like really too scared of, other than like the whole what comes later with head injuries, you know?
Right.
And
later in life.
Later in life.
Right.
And that's part for me with the resilience part, is that it's like, okay, you've experienced a lot here. I think you need to get ready. There could be things later. And there's so many head knocks, you know. So that's something that I think about.
But then also, I guess, you know, Claire O'Rourke talks about it with climate change. She's like, look, you have to do something in every aspect of life, and it's overwhelming. But also, it means that there's something to do everywhere. Yeah. So just start doing something. Yeah. So it does at least gives you like, well, what do I know that decreases the chances of this, you know, getting bad? Yeah. What can I work on today?
Yeah. But that's honestly been that appreciation for that time that I've spent to gain that strength is now like I don't know, I kind of learned this from like the UFC fighters. They get so beat up, man, but they are like body experts. They're just endless researchers on like, what can I do to like improve? And so that I really kind of took that out of from those guys. That's like, yeah, like you've done this, you've gained this resilience, you've been through this experience, and okay, now it's like, no, you really got to like fix it.
So what's the secret sauce? Oh, and what are ways that we can keep our brains as healthy as possible going forward?
Well, I mean, I'm really intrigued into like the whole blood flow, heart regulation, patterns, and only because I see I'm really close with my old man, and he has dementia, and I watch how hard he's fighting, and it's mostly patterns that he exists in. And I'm like, it kind of comes back to the time when I was in that head injury and I had to like set good patterns. So it just kind of makes me go like, oh, this might be something to be said for actually having regular, good, close friends, really regular outings, like, you know, things that you do quite often. Because I feel like it's prolonged his state.
Human connection?
Human connection, but all the time, you know, and like those regular inputs. And I find that like watching him is like if you can put an input in, you can almost put an input in, and if you just keep putting it in and hitting that input, then he will like remember it. Whereas like so many other things he just loses.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think that's good inputs. That's kind of what I'm thinking, like from like hot, cold, you know, different therapies, just good inputs.
Yeah.
And just regularly.
I don't know if you can hear it, but there's a toddler completely losing his mind above us right now.
That's the time of the night, right? Reaching out.
Yeah, we're right at that. He's had a big day. Oh yeah, 5:20. He's like,
on time.
He's on time.
He hasn't missed a beat.
Right. And that's, you know, it's wild. As someone who's, you know, been through some stuff with my own head and, you know, various things, watching the way he regulates.
Yeah.
And knowing what I know now about how, you know, brains develop and prefrontal cortex develop and amygdala activations and things like that, when he's tired, his ability to regulate just actually doesn't exist.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't think that part of his brain even develops for a little while yet. So I can't be upset at him for, you know, running out and grabbing the thing that I said, mate, we've got to leave that. It's bus time.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't know how to not do it.
Yeah.
That bit of his brain doesn't work.
Yeah.
And watching him develop has given me a bit more of an appreciation. I was like, oh, okay. All right, I can't be so hard on myself because that thing's going to take a while to come back. You know, it's you know, some things at least.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. Yeah. It is. It's freaking fascinating.
You got to be kind on yourself, eh? Yeah.
And it sounds like you struggle with that a little bit.
Oh, for sure. Definitely. I think that's that double-edged sword, right? Like hold myself to it, and at the same time, it's also what gets me going. So,
what would you say to people who, I don't know, maybe they're at the start of a recovery journey, whether it be, you know, physical or mental recovery, or someone who's got someone they love who's who's in the middle of a journey like that? What would you say to them?
I took a lot out of a light at the end of the tunnel, and if you don't have a light at the end of the tunnel, put one there. That would be my only advice. And just go for it, like, because it really is such a hard time that you're either in or going through, or whatever it is. It's like to not have that hope, to not have that end, like to that big thing that you can either achieve or goal or whatever it is. And obviously there's all those little steps, but it's like, what's that thing that can get you out of the bed or pushed over that edge? And if you don't have one there, find one, because you will eventually get out of the bed if you find one.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. For me, that really helped. It just kind of was like, all right, I'm going to regain my life.
That's a big one.
Yeah, a big one. But it was like, it seemed so far away. Like at the time, I was like, oh my God, like I'm never going to be able to do that again. I can't even, like, I can't walk. Like,
what have you learned about the human body's ability to recover and heal?
Time. I think hope and patience has got a long way, go a long way. I think, weirdly, I just think like, I think the mental space, even though there's like this, I had this physical thing that was wrong, I think mentally there's a lot to be said for like mindset. Like I really do think that does change health. If you can, have hope and really kind of aim for something.
The mindset that you are on a way, even though this is hard today, in fact, I'm doing this worse than I was yesterday.
Yeah.
This is all a part of me getting there.
Yeah. That whole experience, again, is I felt like my body was going somewhere, whether it was backwards or so, it was like moving.
Right. I'm sorry that you had to go through such an experience, but the lessons that you've got it's very generous that you're sharing them, mate. It really is. It's astounding. Thanks for coming around today, buddy.
Oh, thanks for having us.